Hey guys, Brian delivers you the goods here. Just thought I'd return to you for this quick album review. I don't know how long this is going to be for this review, but I'll let you know what my thoughts are on this Rise of the Northstar new record that came out for November 14th for Chapter 4, Red Falcon Super Battle, Neo-Paris War. So I'm going to discuss what I listened to for the 38 minutes on this record, for the 13 tracks on it, and let you know my thoughts on the entirety of this record. So let's dive into this album review. Now, they are a beatdown hardcore slash rapcore band. So from what I listened to, it starts with the turbo intro. And overall, it's a solid intro track to introduce the record. So it's a 4.75 out of 5. Not a very long song, but does introduce it pretty well for the minute and 27 seconds going into the next song, Payback. So now to talk about Payback, great track. Granted, I think it's solid still. I think some of the way Victor sings the track, I know he has a nickname for the band, and he does rap in this track. And overall, the execution to this song did fairly well, so 4.75 out of 5. Another solid track that I do enjoy from time to time. Neo-Paris is a pretty strong one in its own way. I think the rapping in it is solid, and overall Victor's screaming moments through most of this record are pretty outstanding. So I really enjoyed some of the execution of this song, but there were a few critiques I had, nitpicks I had with this song with how Victor was singing it and rapping it from time to time. So it's a 4.75 out of 5. Falcon is a solid track too in its own way. It's going to get a 4.75 out of 5. Still a pretty good song for how it sounds in its own way, but it's just the execution with certain melody structures and all that. Like, I don't know if it works to a degree where I like it or not. So it's fairly solid, 4.75 out of 5. Back to Basics is a very strong track featuring Florent Salvati of Landmarks, I believe is the lead singer of the band. Florence screaming when the chorus comes in, it's very strong. I really love the chorus in this track. And overall, the rapping and screamo stuff in this track from Victor are very strong in this song. So really enjoyed this. 5 out of 5. Under is only a minute and 9 seconds of an interlude, but it does sound pretty solid for how it is. 4.75 out of 5. It goes into the next track, Pressure, but it overall is a solid one to introduce the next song, Pressure. So fairly good. 4.75 out of 5. Pressure is one of my favorite songs on this record, along with Back to Basics and a few other tracks on here that are pretty strong. But it overall did fairly well for how it executed, and the hardcore beatdown rapcore stuff that they do with this whole entire record does work, and it's definitely a banger. So it's a 5 out of 5. I really enjoyed Victor screaming in this whole entire song, and some of the singing moments and rapcore moments are pretty solid too in their own way. Nemesis featuring Aaron Matz of 1056, I think is a really good one too for how it is. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5. I did enjoy the breakdowns in this track. I enjoyed the drumming, guitar work, and overall Victor and Aaron singing combined do very well with the screaming aspects of the track. So it's another great one, 5 out of 5. Air Max is a very strong track too. I really enjoyed this one. It's going to get a 5 out of 5. I enjoyed how it executed fairly well, but it's mostly the next track I have a few critiques, but this track has great screaming moments from Victor, and it sounds very well executed. 5 out of 5. Solitary Homeboy was a solid track. I think when the chorus comes in, it kind of sounds a little cringy with how Victor sings it. It just doesn't flow very well when the chorus comes in, but the verses are pretty solid. and very good. So 4.75 out of 5 for this track. No Turning Back is another great one that I enjoyed. I'd give it a 5 out of 5. I like the breakdown stuff in this track with the metalcore, hardcore beatdown stuff that they do with this record, and it sounds very good from what I listened to. So, yeah, 5 out of 5 for No Turning Back. Victor's screaming in this is very strong in its own way, and it executes very well. Desolation Hawk is another strong one I enjoyed. I'd give it a 5 out of 5. It is the second to last track before you get to the outro track, and it does very well for the execution of the breakdowns, the screaming moments from Victor, and the instrumentation in this is really good. 5 out of 5. 75 outro is the closing track, and it's mostly like mixed board kind of electronic stuff, and just the beat is like where he's rapping a bit from time to time, but it's an outro track, so of course they have to end it with an outro track that's fairly solid. So 4.75 out of 5. Not a bad track to end the record, but not one of the best. It will decrease the rating a little bit. So overall, production, mixing, and execution wise, I think Rise of the Northstar's Chapter 4 record is a pretty good record. I was very impressed by this. Granted, I would have given it a lesser rating, like a good rating, but from what I listened to, I was pretty impressed with this record. There were quite a bit of highlights on this record, a few pretty solid ones that kind of ruined a little bit of the reception, but not to make it terrible in any way. Still a pretty good listen, and I definitely recommend you guys check this out. Rise of the Northstar's new album, Chapter 4, Red Falcon Super Battle Neo Paris War. It's very strong of a record. So if I were to give Rise of the Northstar's new album a score for Chapter 4, Red Falcon Super Battle Neo Paris War, I'm feeling a 8.5 out of 10. A very strong record in its own way. It's pretty good, but I do have a few critiques with some of the execution with certain tracks on this record that weren't mixed too well, but they flowed all right. But everything else, the ones I gave 5 out of 5s for as I went through the review, are my favorites, like Back to Basics, Pressure, Nemesis, Air Max, No Turning Back, Desolation Hawk. Those are my favorites. Everything else is fairly solid and still pretty good in its own way. So 8.5 out of 10 for Rise of the Northstar's Chapter 4 album, Red Falcon Super Battle Neo Paris War. I hope you enjoyed this album review this afternoon, and thank you guys for watching.